Oh, hello there, and thanks for joining Uncomplicated Math today. Today we're going to be looking at how to divide mixed and whole numbers. And by the end of this video, you'll know the steps involved when dividing mixed and whole numbers. So let's get started. So in question number 1, we're being asked to divide 10 by 4 and 2/3. So looking over to the right-hand side here under our steps involved, we can see that our first step is to convert the mixed numbers and whole numbers to improper fractions. So with this problem, we're going to start out by converting our whole number into a fraction. And anytime you're looking to turn a whole number into a fraction, you're going to write a fraction where the numerator is your whole number and you have a denominator of 1. So now we're going to convert our mixed number into an improper fraction. So to do this, we're going to multiply the value of our denominator by the value of our whole number. And when we multiply 3 times 4, we get 12, and then we're going to add on our remaining 2 parts for our numerator. And 12 plus 2 gives us 14. And our denominator hasn't changed, it's still in thirds, giving us 14/3. So now we can move on to step number 2, where we're going to follow the division steps for dividing fractions of keep, change, and flip. So we're going to keep the fraction of 10 over 1 the same, and we're going to change from division to multiplication, and then we're going to flip. So we're going to flip our denominator to our numerator and our numerator to our denominator. So our denominator now is going to be 14, and our numerator is going to be 3. So now we can actually move on to step number 3, where we're going to multiply our fractions. So first we're going to start out by multiplying our numerators. And when we multiply 10 times 3, we get 30. And when we multiply our denominators, when we multiply 1 times 14, we get 14. So now we can move on to step number 4, where we're going to simplify these fractions. So we can see here that both 14 and 30 are multiples of 2. So we're going to go ahead and divide both of these numbers by 2 in order to simplify this fraction before we convert it into a mixed number. And when we divide 30 by 2, we get 15. And when we divide 14 by 2, we get 7. So now we can see here that we have an improper fraction because the value of the numerator is greater than the value of the denominator. So in order to write our mixed number, we're going to divide the value of our numerator, which in this case is 15, by the value of our denominator, which in this case is 7. So working through the division steps from left to right, we can't divide 1 into 7, so we're going to move from left to right, and we're going to think, how many groups of 7 can we make out of 15? Well, we know that we can make 2 whole groups of 7 out of 15, so up top we're going to write our 2, and then we're going to move on to our next division step, which is to multiply. And when we multiply 2 times 7, we get 14, and then when we subtract 14 from 15, we're left with 1, so we have a remainder of 1. So we're going to write remainder of 1. So when we're writing our mixed number here, we have 2 whole groups of 7. So the whole number of our mixed number is 2, and our denominator hasn't changed. It's still in sevenths. So we're going to write the denominator of 7, and the numerator is our 1 remainder from our division problem. So we have 1/7 for the fractional part of our mixed number. So when we divide 10 by 4 and 2/3, we get 2 and 1/7. So now we're going to move on to question number 2, where this time we're being asked to divide 3 and 1/2 by 5. So remembering our first step is to convert our mixed and whole numbers to improper fractions. So we're going to start out with our mixed number. And we're going to multiply the value of our denominator by the value of our whole number. And we know that when we multiply 2 times 3, we get 6. And then we're going to add on the remaining 1 for our numerator, and 6 plus 1 gives us 7 for 7/2. And now we need to convert our whole number into an improper fraction, and we'll remember from earlier that all we have to do is write a numerator of 5 because that's the value of our whole number, and then we're going to give it a denominator of 1. So now we can move on to step number 2, where we're going to work through the division steps for dividing fractions. So we're going to keep the first fraction the same, so it's still 7/2, and then we're going to change the symbol, so this time we're going to be multiplying instead of dividing, and then we're going to flip the second fraction. So we're going to have a numerator of 1, and we're going to have a denominator of 5. So now we can move on to step number 3, where we're going to start multiplying our fractions. So we're going to begin by multiplying our numerators, and when we multiply 7 times 1, we get 7, and now we're going to multiply our denominators. And when we multiply 2 times 5, we get 10. Now we can move on to step number 4, where we're going to simplify the fraction. And since there's no common multiple between 7 or 10 other than 1, we know that this fraction is already written in its lowest possible terms. So when we divide 3 and 1/2 by 5, we get the fraction of 7/10. Help make math less complicated by smashing those like and subscribe buttons. As always, enjoy today's math journey.